everybody out there, and welcome to Vox Singing Academy's video podcast number 28. And today we're going to be discussing the subject about vocal nodules. But before we get stuck into that, if you like this channel, please subscribe below and you'll get notifications. You can keep up with both of us on Facebook. We are also on Instagram as well too, so check out for any updates and new videos on both of our YouTube channels and Instagram as well too. Today I have a very special guest doing a couple of podcasts with us today. It's Natalia Michalak.
Almost there.
How do you say your last name? Michalak. Natalia is a very, very talented person. Your own original project, Paper Girl. You're multi-instrumentalist, you're a producer, you've written with and collaborated with numerous people here in Australia and also in Europe. You're bilingual, you speak Polish, English, French, Korean and Australian. You're a dancer, a dance teacher, you have a BA in management, and you're a vocal teacher for Vox Singing Academy. But we're going to talk today about vocal nodules. The reason being it is a question that I get asked a little bit about. I do more rehab with people with vocal nodules, more so than people. I've had none of my students develop nodules that I've known of in my career, but I've worked with a lot of rehab and rehabbing people that have had them. But it's very interesting that you had them and you developed them from a very early age, from the age of 13. So I'm going to probably just let you lead off and just tell us how you think that you developed vocal nodules, and then I'll talk a little bit about the difference between a nodule, a hemorrhage, and a callus. But we're going to talk about what you had. And was it a nodule?
Yeah.
It was a nodule. So I'll let you lead off with a little bit of a history about how you developed them, because we really this is what we don't want to do, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is we don't want to develop nodules in the first place. But tell us a little bit about how you developed them, Natalia.
Yes, so that was when I was young, and it was because I was in multiple musical projects.
So you were 13 when they developed. So you're obviously singing before that, from an early age, 10? Earlier.
6? Yeah.
But they would have developed at least started to develop 1 or 2 years beforehand.
Yeah, most likely, because most likely it was just bad technique and vocal fatigue. At that time I was doing 2 schools simultaneously, so I would go to regular school, and after school at 3 p.m. I would go to second school where I would sit until like 8 p.m. and after that I would go to studio to record songs, and it was just vocal fatigue. I had to sing because my voice always has been very high, so I would get like really high parts that I would have to sing on the recording.
Yep.
Like I wanted to sing them really, really well, and multiple takes. And it's just when you finish in studio around 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. and then go home, sleep, and the next day the same thing, it's very easy, I think, to overbuy yourself.
So were you writing your own songs back then, recording your own songs?
We were recording covers.
Covers?
Yeah.
And were you also singing at school as well too?
Yes, of course, like in the regular school and then in the music school that I was doing after hours.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So in the music school we would have choir, we would have solfa lessons, and yeah.
There we go.
It was a lot, and my technique was not great.
Yeah.
I think by that time I didn't really have contemporary singing lessons. I was just singing everywhere, and I knew how to do it. I had good hearing ever since I was 4.
Yeah.
Like when I watched those videos, I was singing in pitch already.
Yeah.
So that was it was easy for me to start.
Yeah.
But then when the nodules started, that just cracked my whole career, because getting rid of nodules took me another 6 years. They would like coming, going.
Alright.
Yeah. First nodules, the ones I got when I was 13, I completely lost my voice. So I was like fish. I was just moving my mouth, but no sound would come out.
Yeah. Natalia, do you know if you had, did you have a single nodule or did you have dual nodules? Because sometimes you get dual nodules where you have one develops on one cord, then it starts to irritate the other, and you
one.
develop two. Because it sounds like you might have had two.
Yeah. I had to, it's just, because it's been so many years and so much rehab, and it's been a long time ago. I can't tell what was first, but there was a time when I had like really big single nodule,
Yeah.
and there was a time when I had like two overlapping on two vocal cords.
Yeah. Natalia, just to let the listeners know, you're in your late 20s now, aren't you?
Yes.
Yes. just to let
fair enough.
Let everyone know that
It's been a while since I had nodules.
Yes. Okay. All right. Now so you said it took 6 years before it completely went away. That's a long
Because
time.
that was the time when I developed interest in rock music. So I started hitting rock scene, singing rock stuff, still without good technique, and still coping, going to nodules rehab. I would do that for, let's say, a month. Usually it was like 3 weeks, then a month break, another 3 weeks, and another month break. I would go for checkups. They would send me again for the rehab, and then after that, I would join the band again and start performing, or go for 2 weeks of singing camp, rock singing.
So you're saying that as soon as your voice got better, you started singing again?
Yeah, and then it was going down the track again. On those vocal camps, I would lose my voice. And I remember there was a time when very, very famous lady came to assess our singing, a lady from TV, and she said that I've got something special in my singing and I could really have a career of that. But I was the worst sounding when she came. That was the moment when my voice was just about to go completely away, and every other girl was singing. When I came to mic, I was like pretty much just husky yelling. It was horrible, but she still said that my delivery of the message was really good. Oh.
We just have to reiterate here that when you lose your vocal cords, your voice altogether, like Natalia did, the nodules are that big that they're basically not allowing the vocal cords to vibrate together, so they're going ah. So there's like well, I'll just explain a little bit about what a nodule is. A nodule is a build-up of harder skin on the vocal cords that is developed from abuse from the vocal cord hitting that one particular spot, and it's exactly the same as if you're working in the garden and without any gloves, and you'll develop calluses on your hands where you're working a lot. It's exactly the same as the vocal cords, and they'll get larger and larger and larger. And as I said, sometimes one will irritate the other. You can develop dual nodules. So that's a nodule. There is also a thing called a hemorrhage as well too, which is a little bit different. These are developed very quickly. So someone that hasn't sung, they would scream and yell, and they would develop a blister on their vocal cords, and then they would go and scream and yell or sing again, and they would take a layer of that blister off, just like you had a blister on the back of your foot if you had new shoes, and the next day you would take that skin off, and it would basically leave a little indentation, and that would bleed. It's the same if you had a blister on the back of your foot. One day you took the skin off it, the next day you kept on walking with those runners without a band-aid on your blister, it would bleed and just become worse and worse. They're the two main ones. There's a nodule, which are built up over time, and a hemorrhage. There is a thing called a callus as well too, and callus is basically the same as a nodule, but generally over a bigger period of the vocal cord. So it would nearly stretch over half the vocal cord, not in the extent of what a nodule is. A nodule actually sticks out like a wart. Yeah. Let's just call a nodule a wart. A callus means that the vocal cord is generally damaged and would heal up again, and the vocal cord would heal nearly hard. It would callus over, so it'd be hard, and the vocal cord doesn't vibrate as well as what it should, and it vibrates, as healthy vocal cords vibrate very frequently and very fluently. And if you've got a callus, it won't. So you'll get a different tone. So that's what a callus is, and that's the least I wouldn't say popular one, but the one that's not developed as much. Generally, it'd be a nodule, the number one, or a hemorrhage. That's basically a run through of very quickly what's the most common vocal disorders are. Now, can you tell us a little bit about your rehabilitation, Natalia? Because you did something that's what I think is a little bit unorthodox for what we do here in Australia.
Yeah, I think it's not very. I don't think this treatment exists here, but in Poland it's called Iontophoresis, and it's pretty much they put electrodes on two sides of your throat and they wrap it with bandage. Yeah. And then
Natalia, can you actually text me that, because I'm going to put a link into that word that you said there.
Yes,
what this treatment is, just in case someone wants to look for it.
Yeah. So they insert calcium into your throat and medication through electrical current. So it just runs from one plate to the other plate, and you can actually feel that sensation. You can feel that metal and that current going in your throat.
Wow.
And this is how it reduces. It reduces a little bit by little bit. So I don't know how long I would have to rest to get rid of those big nodules. And thanks to that, sometimes it was just 3 weeks, 2-week break, another 3 weeks, and it was completely gone.
Now you're saying that you're doing this every day, Natalia?
Yeah, I would have to go
for
every
3
day.
weeks?
Yeah.
Yep. And during that time, no singing and speaking during that time?
I don't really remember. I know I've been constantly doing music and constantly talking and singing, so I don't think I rested much.
Wow. Okay.
It's kind of my temper.
There we go. Yeah, because I know that before we recorded this, you said you rested for about 1 week.
Yeah, like of
that
course
was
when
it.
I was losing voice or I completely lost it, yes, then I would end up at the doctors and they would say, oh, just don't talk,
Yeah.
and I would rest it, but I constantly promised myself that I will rest and I never really
Yeah.
did.
Just on the subject of that, with speaking and singing, we're using the same vocal cords. So right here, let it be, I'm using the same vocal cords that I am to sing as what I am to speak. So vocal rest, if someone says that you must have vocal rest, that means also speaking as well too. So not speaking or singing, but obviously singing puts more strain on the vocal cords because you have to make them run for extended periods of time, more so than da da da, where we're just sort of tapping on the vocal cords to speak.
There are some people who say that speaking actually is more harmful. This is just what I found out through that nodules history, that when you're speaking but you pay attention to change pitch, then it's kind of resting, then it's okay. But if you constantly speak here, and when you have nodules, your tone changes. You sound really low, really husky, you sound really unhealthy, and if you sit down there and constantly speak like that, this is like the most comfortable thing for you to do, but that's gonna really, really tire your vocal cords.
It depends where the nodule is as well too. Like I know I've had some rehab people with generally the nodule's been a little bit higher, so they've gone like that with their voice.
This is what I had. Yeah, so there's a gap, but what I'm saying is just when you talk higher.
Yeah.
Not that high where you have the gap in your voice, but just higher. Don't talk here, because this is what I've been doing for years, and that was probably the worst thing I could do to my throat.
One tip that I can say for anyone out there that has got even a tired voice from speaking, and I deal with a lot of musicians, and a lot of musicians are telemarketers or working also in bars as well too. So they're getting tired voices. So one of the things that I do is I always try to speak melodically. So if I might start down low here, then I'll come up here, especially in classes.
Yeah.
So I try to stay animated, so I'm always going up and down when I'm speaking, not keeping at one pitch, because if I speak like this all day long, this part of my voice is going to get tired, more so than the whole of my voice taking the workload. So I'm really spreading out the workload when I'm speaking, and it's something that I really encourage every singer to do, especially if you're a telemarketer or if you're working behind a bar. alter your pitch, so bring it up here instead of bring it down, especially if you're a telemarketer or anyone, a coach, a lecturer, a personal trainer that's using your voice, same, everything the same, but also mainly using your diaphragm. Make sure that, if you're speaking, breathe through your stomach and try to firm up your stomach as well too. Keep your core working even with your speaking as well too. It's when you sort of start to sit like this and really relax, where there's no support, and I really have to now start to work my voice to get this volume happening. So just having a relatively straight posture and activating your diaphragm, it's very important, because as we know, if you don't get enough sleep and you're tired and you've spoken the whole day, your voice will be tired.
Yes.
It'll be the first thing that goes. And your voice is an emotional extension of it's an extension of your emotions as well. So if you're tired, your voice will be down here. If you're angry, your voice will be like this. If you're happy, so your voice will express the emotions. So it's very, very important. Back to your rehab. Was there anything else you did? So did you basically just do this on and off for 6 years until it subsided?
Yeah, there was a gap in between, I think, of 1.5 years when I had no troubles with my voice.
Yep.
And it was alright.
Yep.
And I thought the nodules were gone forever, but they came back later on. Yeah. So it was just this Iontophoresis for many years.
Okay. Is there anything else that you want to say? Is there any tips?
I think just last 7 years I didn't have them, and this is the technique. Just improving singing scales. Actually warming up before singing, relaxing your throat. This is like regular stuff that every teacher will tell you, but this is actually what's working. And this is something that's going to build up your technique and your vocal cords, your stamina, to make your throat so strong that you can use it non-stop.
If you want good technique, come to Vox Singing Academy. We have a couple of teachers that are working. Ryan works 5 days a week and Emily works 6 days a week. Technique is most important. And I always, duty of care for all of my students is very, very important. I had a student of mine last year, Natalia. Jake, he's in a band called In Heart's Wake, and they pretty much toured for 9 months of last year, so it was a really good case study. And he's the dirty singer in the band. I teach Kyle as well too, who also teaches, he does the clean vocals in the band. But they pretty much toured for nearly 9 months of last year, and his voice was fine through it. And they were doing meet and greets before and after every show as well too. So a lot of speaking, but Jake was really limiting that. So we're touching on, let's just talk about technique, because ultimately we don't want people to develop nodules. I've never had nodules, and none of my students have ever had nodules, especially any of my big signed people that are signed to major label recording contracts. And the main point that I always say to all of my students, doesn't matter how old they are, is we give them proper warm-up techniques, which are a more gentle type of scale before we actually go into full-bodied scales. So we would use the exercise, which is like yoga for your voice, done in 1/10 of your normal volume. Again, you can check out all of these. I have the videos for all of these on the 5-Minute Singer Ask Vox Singing Academy YouTube channel, guys. So have a look at the playlist there. I've got numerous warm-up exercises on there. And so warming up is very, very important. So technique is very important, and gradually warming up your voice. Then I go into it generally an ung warm up, a wee falsetto, and then just a lighter scale after that, and then go into your harder or higher or heavier scales, building it up. So that might be 5 or 10 or 15 minutes into your scales workout. And the way that you develop strength and stamina is by continually doing scales most days of the week. Your voice is a muscle, and it's like going to the gym and lifting weights. So that's how it's going to develop strength and stamina, so you can sing for longer and higher periods of time. The big thing, the motor and the support mechanism for the vocal cords is the diaphragm. So you can be doing scales till the cows come home, but if you're not supporting properly with your diaphragm, you're going to wear your voice out. So proper diaphragmatic breathing, again, I've got numerous YouTube clips that you can check out about how to properly diaphragmatically breathe. That's the number one point. Secondly is warming up properly. Thirdly is doing scales and singing continually, so that your voice almost goes into it goes into automatic pilot. There are songs that I can just sing in scales I can just sing, and it just happen. I can do them in my sleep. And that's how you want to tour, basically. As bands want to tour, you want to be an automatic pilot. So you just go up there, you do the same warm-up, do the same thing every night, continually and consistently with great technique. That's really the main point. We don't want students or anyone ever to develop nodules. And you don't just have to be a singer to develop nodules. I was reading that Anthony Robbins, the very famous motivational speaker, you can see him, he actually does scales on one of his movies that he's got. He does scales. But I know that with a lot of my rehabilitation, most of my rehabilitation has been with people that haven't been singers, at least 3/4 of them. Bartenders are a big one.
Yeah, and
Telemarketers, lecturers, coaches, judges, auctioneers.
Oh yeah, auctioneers.
So these are people, but mainly bartenders.
Yeah.
Speaking over loud music, like, wait, what do you want? So that's a really big one. So, and just even pulling it back further from that, one of the biggest probably destroyers of young voices that I see is that, you know, young students going out, pouring vats of alcohol over their vocal cords, and they don't think that they do it, but by the end of the night, you're screaming and yelling, you're doing this, and you're doing this for 4, 5, 6 hours. You go home, you're like, they'll wake up like this in the morning. And that's one of the biggest destroyers of voices right there. So just really, you know, gauging your voice. I have a student, Alex, and she's just got signed for a Unified Records. She's in a band called Drown This City. And, you know, Alex has a really hard time going out. She just has to monitor how much she speaks and how she speaks to people, because her voice wears out very quickly by speaking over. And that happens to everyone. It happens to me as well too.
Yeah, I agree. I had a big problem because my voice used to be extremely sensitive, and it would wear out very quickly. I think even a while ago, a year ago or so, I asked you what to do with that. And nowadays I've noticed it's actually really strong. Like, I don't go out that much, and I don't wear out my voice, but I think it's strengthened with the techniques and diaphragm and scales. So the thing that, you know, sometimes you have to go because it's your best friend's birthday, and you go there and you spend even 3 hours or so, you have one drink, it's not much. But I know that after that I would feel effects the next day in my voice already, because my voice was very sensitive. Now, nothing. It gets better. Well, in my case.
That's, you know, that is correct. You know, when I'm going out, I monitor how much I'm speaking, how I'm supporting, and you know, if my voice starts to, you know, fatigue, you know, I get very close to people. So if it's loud music, I speak like this, like that, and then I stay very close. So
and then they just look at you like, are you talking?
Yeah, some people, definitely. Some people, but that's the way that I want to do it if I don't want to wear my voice out, because, you know, my voice has been my whole life. So, you know, I don't want to damage it or hurt it. So that's really prevention. You know, taking care of your voice. I think articulation's a big one as well too, because you can do everything. If you're doing this and pushing sounds from a small sound like that, a small girth, you can hurt your voice. So even if you're speaking, articulating, getting your mouth working, letting the sounds just flow out, but more so with your singing. But yeah, technique, practicing your songs, and building up your workout. So extending the length of time that you do scales, extending the length of time that you sing songs. And all of my guys that tour, generally I say, if you got to do an hour headline show, generally we're rehearsing for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So that we've got more, we know we can do more than that.
Yes.
And an hour is a breeze. So that's what we generally do. And that would be generally a half an hour of scales, and then the full set of half an hour. Yeah. That's generally what we do. But I even do more with my guys. I say, look, you know, do an hour and a half worth of singing and 45 minutes worth of scales, building it up. And then before they tour, I actually bring them down about the week beforehand, a week and a half beforehand, so that their voice is kind of rested and ready to go, and then they start the tour. That's generally what I do. I'll just very quickly talk about the rehab process here that I've dealt with people here in Australia. There are two ways that we generally do if you've got nodules here in Australia. If you've got acute nodules, big nodules, and you want to get back up and running as quickly as we can, generally you would go and have an operation where they would laser the nodule off. So they go in with a laser. It's a very safe operation now. They go through and it also cauterizes it, so when they cut the nodule off it also seals it up because they go through with a laser. But still, you have to have rest after that. It's generally about 2 weeks of no vocalizing period. And then you would start some speech pathology and some singing lessons after that. Again, starting just with really light warm-ups. Speaking firstly is the first thing that we go into, getting the speaking going. Speaking melodically, and then we basically build it up from there. Again, after the ENT has given them the all clear, generally after 2 to 3 weeks, to start speaking again and then starting rehab straight away. So that's the quickest way to get going. The other way is to not speak or sing and let the nodule or the callus go down by itself, which can be a long time. So generally you would want to stop speaking for at least 2 weeks to let the swelling go down, then start speaking again, see whether that irritates it, and then you would want to go and have a look. Get an ENT to have a look to see whether it's completely gone down, because you can't start rehab until it's completely gone down. The big thing, and that's what happened with you as well too, is that even if I don't work in the garden, let me tell you that, even when if you don't work in the garden and you've got no calluses on your hands, these can develop pretty quickly. If you go back and work in the garden, you can develop them in 3 or 4 days. And same thing with your vocal cords, exactly the same thing can happen. So if you've already had them, you've got an increased chance of reoccurrence again if you've already had them.
Yeah.
Okay, so the big thing is prevention, guys. You don't want these. I've luckily enough never had them, and there are days when I was teaching 6 days a week, and I've never had them. And I tell all of my students, I teach you the same technique that I use to sing all day long and teach all day long. I'm going to teach you the same technique as well too. So that's they're the two ways to basically get rid of nodules. One is the quicker way, and probably I nearly recommend the operation, because when it's done, that actually lessens your chance of them reoccurring again, because it's cauterized and you nearly get a fresh set of vocal cords there. So that's really the main thing. With a hemorrhage, you're going to have to wait till it heals up, and I have seen a hemorrhage vocal cord, and where one cord is nearly stiff because it's healed up, and the other one is fluent. So they've actually got a missing part of their vocal cords as well too. Actually, a person that I know that's got a major label recording contract has got that and developed that. They're over it now. They can sing around that particular area of their voice. So I've worked with them extensively to sing around that part of their voice. Again, they didn't develop it while they were under my supervision. They developed it before I was with them. But I think that pretty much sort of wraps it up. Natalia, is there anything else that you want to add?
I was just thinking, so we recommended you to think about your diaphragm when you're singing, to use the scales to warm up and all of this stuff. But when you do it mindfully. Don't go like, okay, I'm gonna do my half an hour scale and just stand and just sing the scale, all of the scales, and just marking them. Just really be there qualities over quantity with these exercises. So always be very mindful of what you're singing, what your mouth should be like. Is your diaphragm activated even when you're doing the scales?
Look, when I do rehab, I tell my students when they're doing rehab exactly how long they have to do the scale for and sing for, the exact precise times. And then if they're feeling tired or fatigued, they have to drop it and stop and contact me. So it's slowly but surely building it back up. Yeah, just be positive, because you can, with right technique, get your vocal cords back. You can Google on YouTube, or just Google anywhere, not on YouTube, but you can Google the famous people that have had nodules, and
list is endless.
The list is endless. Celine Dion, Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston said Mariah Carey actually said she always had them and she just sung around them. Basically, I was reading the list here. All the big artists have developed them in some way, shape, or form. So just take care of your vocal cords, and if you have any questions regarding this, please always let us know if we could ever help you out as well too. definitely get in contact with Vox Singing Academy. I am an expert in this and helping people through these different situations, and so is Natalia, because Natalia has been there and done that, so she will tell you exactly what to do to get your voice up and going. But as I said, prevention is better than the cure. So please take care of your voice, and if you're unsure and getting some fatigue, go and get some expert advice and some expert tuition.
Yeah.
Signing off. Thanks, Natalia, for coming in. Have a great week, and we will check in next week. Okay, bye for now.